To this episode of the Vortex. I'm your host, Kathleen Pitt. I have an amazing guest here today, a yapper at heart, just like me. She is a self-love coach and intuitive healer, founder and host of Be the Badass podcast. Amazing. Already love it. She helps women reconnect with their inner world so they can show up fully in their outer world. We love that too. Everybody, welcome Bonnie. Let's chat.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me, Kathleen.
Oh my gosh, of course. So Bonnie, tell me about your vortex. Tell me what you're about. You're a self-love coach and intuitive healer. Like that's not something that you go to college for. So how'd you get
No. So my how did I get here?
there?
I
I was
have
born.
yeah, in 1983. No, so I was at a point in my life where I pretty much had on the outside my I had what my heart desired. My husband and I had a great relationship. We'd been together probably about 10, 12 years at that point. Our kids were thriving and in school. We had just moved into our dream home. I had just started teaching. I got my teaching degree. I graduated in 2015. Kind of a go back to school kind of thing, and graduated in 2015 with my teaching degree. So I was a couple of years in. This was about 2016. So I was when we moved into our house, and I got about a year and a half into teaching and was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I want to do this forever. I don't think this is the thing. I can't see doing this until I'm at retirement age. And so I kind of
But
started
as
to
an
fantasize.
aside, like we love our teachers. Like the reason I'm a
Oh,
teacher and like I feel like there's a special person that does that. They should pay you more. You deserve
yeah.
better. Like it's just such a messed up system. And like praise be to all the
Yeah.
teachers that do it. I know you're doing it out of the love of your heart. Like I wish I could be everybody's classroom mom because
Yeah.
whoo, we love
And
our
I
teachers.
I definitely am still a teacher at heart. So much of what I do is teaching women about, how to reconnect with their inner world and all these amazing tools to help really make their inner world a beautiful, safe space.
Yeah.
Um, but I had started to kind of fantasize, like my husband had his own business and had been working for himself for a while, and he one day I came home and he shaves his head bald with like a razor, and he had shaved. And I was like, when did you take a shower? And he's like, oh, about 10 o'clock this morning. And I was like, I want that. And so I
Yeah.
started
The
kind of,
freedom.
yeah, I'm
Freedom.
like, I want to take a shower whenever I want. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing. And so I kind of started to brainstorm different business ideas, and I'm a great dreamer. I have a great imagination. I'm a very vivid imagination. I was coming up with all these really cool business ideas, and I'd kind of start to get the ball rolling, and then I wouldn't stick to things and I wouldn't follow through with things. And I was getting to this place of like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why, my weight, I wasn't happy with my weight, and I was trying to make health changes that I wasn't sticking to. And I just was really caught in this, like, what is wrong with me? And I really felt like something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I kind of hit this rock bottom. Like everything externally was beautiful and wonderful, but internally I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
And so I went to journaling. It's something I had kind of sporadically done, through the years and high school and stuff, but I hadn't done in a very long time. And so I went to journaling to try to like work out what is wrong with me. And
Yeah. Wait, I have a
and
question. Were you a
yeah.
writer like as a kid? Like, did you write in a diary or did you write a lot?
And I did I was more of a reader. I've always
Okay.
been a very, very ferocious reader. I literally devour books. And ever since I was little, like I came home from my first day of it was first grade. I had older sisters, and they were always reading to me, and my mom was like, "You're gonna read to learn to read in first grade. You're gonna learn to read in first grade." Well, I came home from the first day of first grade, and I cried because I didn't learn how to read yet. I don't know how to read yet. It's first grade. I don't know how to read.
What the heck?
So I've and so writing, I dabbled in, with diaries here and there throughout the years. I was never super consistent, but I picked journaling up because there was so much going
Get
on in
out.
here, and I was losing my mind. And so I started journaling. And as I was journaling one day, I wrote something along the lines of like, how can I even like myself when I don't even love myself, or something along those like, and I like, it was like a pin drop. Like I had this like whole moment, like, oh my gosh, I don't love myself. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even like myself. I don't love whoa. And I literally went to Google and was like, books on how to love yourself because I'm a reader. And my first answer is books.
Yeah. We love a
And
motivated queen. You know, she's just getting
yeah. And so
solving
I
that
was like,
problem, baby.
how do I love myself?
Yeah.
And I discovered Gala Darling, which I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's kind of the tapping queen in the coaching industry. And I read her book, Radical Self Love. And from there, I read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And those two books were kind of my turning point, especially You Are a Badass, which is kind of where the Be the Badass brand was born. This whole concept of being a badass and what it's really come to me. I ended up, creating this acronym around what it really means to me to be a badass woman. And it's a woman who builds her awareness, who dreams authentically, and who shows up soulfully. And so I just started to learn more and more and more about how we process and our subconscious and really how we end up the way we end up and why we are the way we are and why we operate the way we operate. And as I learned and applied these tools of, emotional regulation and inner healing and literally watched my internal world change. My external world,
Right.
essentially looked the same. I was still teaching, and when I didn't really, I knew I wasn't meant to stay there. My kids were still doing amazing, married to the same man, living in our dream home, but
Right.
everything felt completely different.
Yep.
And I found
Bang,
this
bang, boom.
peace.
It's
Yeah, it really
magic.
was.
Yeah.
I found this inner peace and I found this just this sense of happiness and joy and understanding that that's mine to cultivate. And I got to this point of like, I need to shout this from the rooftops that, as I had conversations with women and I shared what I was learning about our subconscious mind and our emotional processing and all these, the way we get programmed and conditioned. And the more I talked to him and the more I realized like it wasn't just me who isn't aware of these things. It's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
me struggling with these things. And then I really just wanted to shout it from the rooftop. And that's where Be the Badass was born. Started the podcast and just sharing my story and talking to any woman that would stand still long enough to listen
Yeah, yeah,
about all of it and how life changing it all is. And so that's really where I kind of where things kind of took off.
Yeah, because like I mean, everything you said in your story, it's just this theme, right, of women in their 20s to 40s, to mid 20s to mid 40s is like, well, now what? Like, well, now
Hmm.
what? Like, this is what I have
Yeah.
to do, and we're not the first generation to feel this way, right? Like our mothers and the mothers before them felt that way, but they were just not in this position to move and to change and be the embodiment of that which they desired because this is like the first full generation where we were able to own a credit card the entire time or
Yeah.
even not
Yeah.
even, right? So
Yeah.
there's like this like, okay, well now we have the freedom, like let's claim our sovereignty back and we're actually in the position to do so.
Hmm.
And there's so many women who are like, okay, well, I've got the achievements, I've got the accomplishments, everything in the external looks great, and I'm so fucking miserable. Like I can't even like go to sleep at night, or like I'm scrolling on TikTok, or I wake up in the middle of the night with high cortisol. Maybe another drink,
Yeah.
maybe the viral happy drink will fix it. Like, no, like it is so
Yeah.
much more than just eating fiber and going to the gym. It's
It runs deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't like yourself if you don't love yourself. Like there's
Hmm.
so much we do like martyring for others that we're like, no, I do want the joy, I do want the alignment, I do want the fulfillment. It's like, no, you're killing yourself for that. Like you
Yeah.
need to love
Yeah.
yourself first before you any or all of that comes through for you, right?
Yeah. And I think what I've noticed, and what I've kind of observed is it's not exclusive to mothers, but I've noticed with mothers in particular, we carry life and then it's with us and it's within us and then we give birth to a piece of ourselves and then it's walking and talking on the outside and
Ooh.
our focus becomes completely externally driven. There is no internal focus. There is no what about me. We very much lose ourselves in motherhood and in such a beautiful good way, but also in such a way that when we don't use the tools and we don't go inward and we don't, do the work for ourselves that ultimately, as much as we love it, it's also depleting us completely. And I've been able to show up as such a better mom because of the work that I've done for myself.
Yeah. Boy, that motherhood topic, that that's whoop, go down that rabbit hole. Oh my gosh, like 100%. Like being a mom is so, and again, like this journey is not exclusive to motherhood. And I'm sorry if you're not a mom listening to this. We're going to talk about being a mom for a second. I'm sure you're tired of hearing moms talk about it, but here we are. It's a lot. It's a lot of what we do. Being a mom is so like how much, especially in the first, like, I mean, all the time, but especially the first 5 years, you're just like you have to push away every single thing, like even physical needs. Like you have to push
Yeah.
away like
Like
eating, like
I'll shower tomorrow.
sleeping. Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
have to push that away for the survival and betterment of something outside of you.
Hmm.
And it becomes this trap, right? And I think many moms end up here. And if they're lucky, they have a beautiful support system and community that like really brings them out of it. But you're only as good as the people around you. So hopefully
Yeah.
your support system is enlightened. Like you really, and as most moms in this country, we live in America. I think I live in America. Sorry, did I
Yes.
say my name for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I live in
I'm a
America.
Florida girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you live in America, like there's not community. There's not support.
Yeah.
We don't have support in our job. We don't have support in the stereotypes. We don't have support in the feeding of our kids. Like we just don't have support. So it's very easy to get stuck in that trap of like, okay, this is just who I am now, or this is just the destiny that I did. And that can become, I mean, debilitating, right? Because
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if you don't like it? What if you're like irritated with your kids all the time and you don't know and you can't even afford to go to work because daycare costs
Right.
too much, right? Like that's a whole other problem. So it's like
Exactly.
it's so easy to get trapped in this space and then not see a way out. And then just your mind will do everything to keep you in the safe and familiar, right? That's your
Hmm.
subconscious. So your subconscious
Yeah.
will do everything to keep you in the safe and familiar. So you're in this trap and now you hate it.
Hmm.
And that's where
And
you
you
are.
want to love it and you feel guilty that you're not loving every minute of it. The mom guilt is intense. And
Mhm.
it isn't, as we said, exclusive to moms. You know, like there is so much historical and societal conditioning that women have been subjected to where, you know, even those who aren't mothers become caregivers in some way. Or, you know, it's there's we are natural nurturers, and you know, so many of us are. And it kind of creates, even if you're not a mom, you know, you're showing up for your siblings or your parents, or you're, you know, bending over backwards for your employer, you know, you're sacrificing what you want for your spouses or your significant other. And so it's reminding, like, I want to remind women that we are not just those labels. We are not just the roles that we play. We are our own person, and we have to claim that, and we have to own that, and we have to take that back. And when we do, it really gives us the power to live differently, and it's life changing.
Yeah, because also too, like the divine feminine's making a comeback, like the divine people
Is
claiming that divine feminine space, and then the masculines having like a pity party about it, the tantrum, because it's been pretty easy for them. But the truth is
Hmm.
that the divine feminine always goes first. The feminine goes first, and the masculine rises to meet her. So we let the
Yes.
feminine role play, we let whatever tantrum play out, and then the masculine's going to rise to meet us. I mean, we're crossing our fingers, but most of the time, that's how it works. Speaking
Yeah.
of which, how did that work in your marriage and like your transformation? Did the masculine
Um,
rise to meet you?
yeah, no, my husband's always been a fantastic partner. He's always been a hands-on dad. You know, he's never been one of those husbands that's like, I'll watch the kids so you can go. You know, it's like, hey, I'm doing this, doing that. But as I have let go of so many of my own insecurities, and, you know, like even now there's times where he'll say something that triggers something in me, where I start to, you know, I get worried that, like, oh, I'm a, you know, that's him implying I'm a burden, or, you know, these
Yeah, yeah,
different
yeah.
things. And having to, like, having the awareness to catch myself in those moments and go, okay, where is this really coming from? Is he really implying that I'm a burden right now? Or am I projecting that fear out onto him?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so it's been great, for our relationship, in the sense of, like, we've always been good at communicating. I've always felt safe sharing, you know, where I'm at and how I'm feeling. And but it's even more so, with the work that I've done and the way that I've changed, um, that there's even less fear around sharing and communicating and being vulnerable and being able to say like, hey, when you said this and this, it made me feel this and this. And and he doesn't jump to a defensiveness because he recognizes that this is me talking through my own shit and working that out,
Yeah.
out loud with him. Um, and then being feeling braver and stronger to be able to say this is what I need, this is what I desire, and from you, from our relationship, and him being, him knowing that and having that clarity instead of me expecting him to be a mind reader or to just
Yeah.
know the thing. um and he is able to kind of rise to meet me and show up in the way that I need him to. And so it really has improved our relationship, our connection, our communication. um and truly every relationship that I have has improved because of the work that I've done. Because when I have five siblings, so I have a big family. We're very close and tight knit, but as all brothers and sisters do, we drive each other crazy sometimes. And so in those moments, I'm able to catch myself and go, okay, where am I reflecting or projecting judgment?
Sure.
What's my perception in this, and how can I shift it to have, to show up in more love and not fear or judgment or assumptions
Mhm.
about where they're coming from. And again, going back to motherhood, I'm the mother that I am now compared to the mother that I was capable of being earlier on, is vastly different. My patience is
100%. Yeah. I was just gonna say that, like, for me, the
incredible.
biggest thing was like my relationship with my children. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
my kids were young, like, well, I mean, they're still, my business has been going for about a year. So when I started, they were 3 and 5, and now they're 4 and 6, right? So I remember when they started, I was just so fucking bitter. Like, I mean, my
Hmm.
3-year-old wasn't sleeping, and now he is. So that's like been so helpful. But I was so bitter. I was like, I could do so much shit if you weren't like, if you just sleep. And it's like,
Yeah.
that sounds so hateful, like saying now, but the truth is I was sleep deprived. I was
Yeah.
clocking in about 3 or 4 hours a night, interrupted. Like, no one's
Yeah.
coming from like an evolved state. Like, no one's like talking in just the most complex, kind, empathetic sentences on 3 hours of
Right.
sleep multiple nights in a
No.
row, right? But it's
Yeah.
like this thought and this theory with the subconscious. Like, for me, what I teach my clients is like, everything in your external reality is a mirror of your internal world. So
Yeah.
where am I going? Where am I projecting that he's a bad kid, or that he's a
Hmm.
bad sleeper, or that I need to be sleep deprived to like claim my worthiness as a martyr of a mother, right? Because I'm in
Hmm.
control of all of that.
Yeah.
He's 3 years old. He's just has
Mhm.
issues, right? We took him to a chiropractor. He's a functional medicine. We like went through detox. He needed help and
Yeah.
assistance to get to that like integrated state. And unless if I wasn't evolved enough to say like, okay, what is this showing me? What is this telling me? What do I need to
Yeah.
do as a match to be that for him?
What's the message? Yeah.
Yeah, what is the message? It was I could have played out that victim card for as long. And how horrible would that have been for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It really does change us. Part of how I ended up on this journey, and the reason I struggled so much early on, with my as a mom, what my husband and I, we lost our second daughter
Mhm.
in 2012. She was a
Okay.
little over 2.
Yeah.
And because of my and I did grief counseling, and it, it helped tremendously. I will never therapy counseling. I will never speak against those things, but so often I have found with the women that I've worked with, it's not enough. It's
Right.
not
Right.
getting
Oh,
to that deeper level. It's just not, they're not, that message isn't coming through the way it needs to come through. That the work that they're doing isn't going deep enough into you know those wounds that most for most of us go all the way back to our own childhood, and we're completely unaware, and we don't realize how much they're affecting us and how much they dictate the way even just the way we perceive and experience moments. And because I wasn't able to at the time heal on a deeper level,
Yeah.
I was always walking a very fine line. I had a very short fuse. I was very easily triggered. And everything that went wrong with my kids when they were young, it all meant that it was reinforcing this deep subconscious belief of I'm a bad mom. I couldn't save our other daughter, not that there was saving to be had. It was medical things, that were unavoidable and unchangeable.
Yeah.
But it created this story of I'm a bad mom.
Yeah.
And everything that happened with my kids, every time, they got in a mischief or, threw a tantrum or, it was all reinforcing this deep seated story of I'm a bad mom.
Yeah.
And so that triggered me and set me
Inadequacy is
off.
the word that comes through for
Oh, for
me,
sure.
right? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so with the work that I did on my own journey has really led to such deep healing where now, um, I do deeply believe that it happened the way it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Losing her set me on the journey to becoming this version of myself. And the work that I'm doing is part of her legacy of breaking generational cycles and helping other women heal their own trauma and really digging deep to those stories of the things we tell ourselves that really affect our worthiness.
Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing. What was her name?
Thank you. Chloe.
Chloe. So it's
Yeah.
so amazing. Like I go through that kind of debacle often in my coaching where I do believe that. And I've been through some pretty horrendous stuff as well. It's like I believe that we really chose that. And Chloe
Hmm.
chose that, right? She
Yeah.
chose that mission and message to show you the way. And it is incredibly painful and she'll always be with you. Um,
Hmm.
and it's like, how do you transmute that pain into power? Like you can decide to be bitter and angry your whole life. Why me? Like that's, and why you? Like I'm there and
Hmm.
empathetic for you whenever you need that space too. But it's also like, what can I do about it? And how am I going to use this as a catapult for other people? Like what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? Where is my power and how can I
Yeah.
make other women feel so empowered for the trauma and things that they've been through? Like what are
Yeah.
like that is just like for me always what I come back to. A question I ask my clients almost daily is like, where are you giving your power away today and how are you going to take it back? Because you are the creator of your reality. So it's up to you to decide to harness that power and move as a match for what you desire, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do a lot of the same with my clients that, my I found for me, as I mentioned, and the reason I call myself a self-love coach is because I have found that if you work on that relationship with yourself as much as you do with the relationships outside of yourself, and you really develop that self-love, that genuine unconditional self-love, that is the root of all of it. When you genuinely and deeply love yourself, I didn't believe I was worthy of healing for a very long time. I
Yeah.
carried that pain of her loss and more than once said, I can't feel the depth of the pain because I won't come back from it. I really believed that I was going to go into the darkness and never come back,
Right.
if I let myself really feel the pain of her loss. And that stems from a lack of self-trust. That stems from a lack of me trusting myself to carry that pain, trusting myself to feel it and still be able to pull myself out of it. And so when I kind of started this whole how do I love myself journey, it wasn't for the intent to heal these deep-seated wounds from losing, our daughter. It was, I just wanted to figure out why I couldn't stick to anything and like why I struggled to like enact change and be consistent with stuff. And it was through that journey and through really reestablishing this relationship with myself, really beginning to see myself as my own best friend and to believe in myself and to accept myself as I am and really work on that self-worth. That was when the real healing was able to happen
Yeah.
because now I'm at a place where no, I do deserve to feel healed and whole. I do deserve to go into the darkness, and I'm capable, and I trust myself, and I know that I can bring myself back out of it.
Yeah.
And so
Because you
really,
are the light, right? Like that is like
yes,
that's what we
yes,
call quote unquote shadow work. And I'm really glad you brought that up because I think I always am looking for like a really good example to explain like, well, what's shadow work? Because that's like a term that gets thrown around in the industry. But
yes.
it really it's like it's going to the depths of your pain rather
Hmm.
than hiding it, right? And rather than stuffing it down and that
And
inadequacy,
avoiding it.
worthiness, and that love, like a self-love, like saying like, I'll just deal with it later, right? Like, no, you are the light. Like you have to learn to develop and that trust in yourself that you are the light and you are capable of love and you're capable of casting light on that shadow and bringing it up
Yes.
and making it your power, making it
Yeah.
your superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really does. When you're able, like I have found that being able to go into the darkness has helped me to find my light, and it helped me to see that I am the light. And so now I'm able to show up as that light for other women. I'm able to be that voice and that difference in perspective. Like, yeah, you could look at it that way, but you could also look at it like this, you know.
Mhm.
And the women that I've worked with, I a client who um had a super severe drug addiction, actually spent time in federal prison
Mhm.
um, for 5 years, I believe about 5 years. A woman battling cancer, a woman whose mom, abandoned her. And all of these things create these stories that we tell about ourselves and
Yeah.
that dictate our worthiness to us instead of us deciding what our worthiness is. And so for me, it's always coming back to self-love, and it's always coming back to that relationship with yourself. Like we're not just, we get so disconnected from ourselves. We're just the mind and body, like going through life, here to show up for everybody else and do all the things. We forget that we're a whole person that we can
Yeah.
get to know better and learn more about and really love.
Yeah, I think I posted something about that today. Actually, it's funny. So anytime I post content, I think I've said this before in a podcast, so sorry for repeat listeners, but anytime I post content, I like wake up in the morning and I'm like, hey, what do people need to know? What do I need to go? Okay. And that's what I post. Like there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the pillar content, no middle
Yeah.
funnel, top of funnel stuff. Like, no, I tune in and go. So one of the things that
Yeah.
came up today was like, what does success mean to you? Success used to mean like car, clothes, house, etc. That's frankly bullshit. Like this is what it actually means about freedom, sovereignty, whatever. And in the caption, you guys can go back and look. It's December if you want to go back and see the post. But in the caption, it was like what came through channeled was like, you're probably reading this and saying, like, Kathleen, I understand that a car, a house, clothes, and kit, like all that is just an external. I understand that that's not a true version of success. I'm working really hard to make
Hmm.
sure that my life, my family, my relationships, are fulfilled or that I have time for them. And I said, and then I was like, but you're missing like one big piece is that you're working so hard, you're killing yourself to have this other version of success, that fulfillment. But if you really tuned into the love that you have for yourself and that you're abundant now, you're free now, you're successful now, just for breathing, just for existing,
Yeah.
that is where true success is. That's the new paradigm of success. That's what leadership, self-love, self-leadership, self-love, that's what wholeness looks like. And when you come
Yes.
from that space, when you make decisions from that space, everything else is taken care of. It's a byproduct.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I love that it's a byproduct because it really is. Everything that has changed, leaving teaching, that was I by year 2 I knew I wanted out. And I
Right.
was I was ready to run. Run. I was running away from this and I do. I love my teachers. I still have teacher friends. Um
I'm baking 100 sugar cookies this afternoon for my teachers. Okay. I'll do
I will,
whatever.
yeah. I will
Worship
bow,
my
I will
teacher.
bow at the feet of teachers. And it was, I had reached a place where I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what life looked like outside of, the degree that I got and the fit in the box career that I was working. And but I stuck around and I just kind of kept teaching and like hoping that I would figure things out. And as I did the work, and I like that was when my purpose became very clear. And I really realized I am a teacher at heart, but I'm here to teach something much different. And
Much
I'm here to
deeper.
much deeper. And
Much.
so by the time I left teaching, I thankfully I no longer felt like I was running away from that as a career, but I was really running towards what it is that my heart was calling me to do. And it wasn't an easy transition. I not only did I resign last May, but I also invested in working with a high level business coach to really help me. I'd kind of been dabbling for like 3 years,
Yeah.
and I'm going to start this kind of business and I'm going to be a coach, and not really seeing progress and momentum. And it was really like this, I was trying to be this version of myself, this coach, but I still had one foot in the door of my old self,
Yeah.
as a teacher. I felt so disconnected. I felt like there were two of me, like kind of going through life. And when I told my husband that I wanted to resign, and because I turned 40 last summer, and
Yeah.
so is New Year's Eve 2022 that I was like, oh my gosh, we're about to start the year I turned 40. And I was like, I am not starting my next decade in a career that I know I'm not meant to be in.
Yeah.
And so I
No
right then
thanks.
that was going to be it, that I was walking away at the end of that school year. And it was hard for my husband. As I said, he's always been a great partner and he wants to see me happy and thriving. When I told him early on that I didn't want to teach anymore, his response was, I don't care what you do. I want you to be happy. He's like, but you need to figure out what you're going to
Oh,
do
we
before.
love him. We just love that. We
Yeah,
love him. Love a
I don't
divine king. Woo!
I don't care what you do. I want you happy. And he's like, but you need to know what you're going to do before you walk away from teaching.
Yeah.
And then when it was time to walk away from teaching, he had a lot of reservations. We have like the lifestyle we had gotten ourselves to. We've enjoyed, we've been able to travel and home remodel projects and all those things. And, he had a lot of it was really coming from a place of fear. Not that he would ever call it that or recognize that that's where all of it was coming from, but it was this
My
fear of,
favorite budgeting meeting, like when I'm like, okay, before we enter this budgeting meeting together, I really need you to come from a place of abundance and not one of scarcity. Would you like to bathe in the frequency of money with me? He's like,
no, that I get the eye roll when I start talking about that kind of stuff and manifestation and stuff. I get a little bit of an eye roll. He's
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
definitely not like in
Ready?
he, like
Breathe in money with me.
yeah. We need to get in the frequency of abundance. Yeah, he's definitely not like a woo-woo guy.
Yeah,
But it's so crazy how much of a natural manifester he is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like he just because he decides and then he moves and
yeah,
then things work out. It just happens that way. But he had some reservations and was really like, can't you, okay, invest in the coach, but keep teaching and keep doing,
yeah,
build it, as you're doing. I'm like, I can't do both
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
So it was a little bit of a rocky transition. Again, he kind of finally reluctantly came to a place of supporting me because again, ultimately he wants me to be happy, but he was having a hard time with, kind of shaking up life as we knew it with me as a teacher. And
yeah, for sure.
so, and again, then I had to go back. There were so many times, especially in the first like 6 months or so, that I really started to doubt and I really started to like, okay, maybe I have to go back part-time and oh my gosh, like insurance. We gotta figure that out. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back. But I just kept coming back to this, that reminding myself of the knowing that I felt. I felt it when I decided it, when I said it, when I claimed it, and I knew it. And
yeah,
I had to keep bringing myself back to that feeling, that what it felt like in my body, to remind myself like, okay, yes, you're having doubts. It's normal, it's natural. But you got to keep going. Like you just
yeah.
got to keep going.
100%. And like, two things I wanted like came up for me was one, I renewed my nursing license. Was it last night or the night before last? At 11 p.m. It was the last day to do it at 11 p.m. And I left my NP job in October, was like my last day. And I was like, oh my God, like I need to renew this. And I only renewed it because my husband, like I knew it was like a
Mhm.
security blanket for him.
Yep.
And one of the big things that I talk about, and one of my reels that went viral was like, as I manifested my dream life, like my relationship became worse and worse because like I can see this vision with absolute clarity. Like
Yep.
I believed in a lot of things and I've manifested a lot of things through like grit and hard work. The vision of me making millions, speaking on stages and flying to international countries to be a wealth embodiment coach for the high level CEO, that is so done. Like in my body, in my world, in my frequency, that is a frequency I choose every single day when I wake up in the morning. Like that is what I'm here to do. It is so done. So in the beginning, I would tell him that and he'd be like, okay, like, can you help me make like 7 peanut butter and jellies? Because like our kids are feral. And I'm like, right, right. But like, I'm gonna like, okay, give me this circle sandwich thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey," you know what I mean? It's like, you're so
Yeah.
disconnected from
Yeah.
reality. I'm like, no, I'm the most connected I've ever been.
I promise. I
Yeah, I
promise.
promise. Like you have no, like this is it. But the
Mhm,
truth is
mhm.
that like they are just along kind of for the ride. And so I hold a lot of empathy for him and I, have for the whole, and he is supportive and he's a great dad and all those beautiful things too, and a loving divine marriage. But I hold so much empathy for these people, like our partners that, that's not what we entered into our soul or our marriage contract as. This is our soul contract that we're
Yeah.
holding to, right? So the marriage, like something that comes up a lot for people when they move as a space is this, well, I didn't marry this person. No, but your soul chose to marry me before this ever happened. So come on, let's go along for the
Just
ride.
that's it. And we've had conversations, and finances and budget and our savings and where it's at and where things have grown. It's kind of been a slow but mostly steady, not always steady. And so it has been, he like I said, the whole manifestation and the frequency of energetics and stuff, that's like he just that's a little bit of an eye roll for him. He
Yeah.
doesn't
Do you
think
mind if
and
I ask
see
you what
and
he does or what's his like background in?
yeah, no, I don't mind at all. He's an electrical contractor. So right out of high school, he went and worked for a company and went through the journeyman's license process. And he was with them for 13 years.
Hmm.
So literally out of high school, steady 13 years of employment. And when he left them, it was to start his own business with a business partner of his. And
Yeah.
so,
So
yeah,
he's
no, he's
beautifully
very.
like in that, like he's manifesting in the 3D world. Like, obviously that's the words and jargon that we use, but he is
Mhm.
locked in that 3D. Like my husband's an engineer. And so I'm like trying to explain this to him and he doesn't really, he's like, well, but I'm like, okay,
So concrete.
yeah, the things that I like really help him envision is sacred geometry because he has a math brain. So that's helpful for
Mm.
him to kind of
My
see
husband
that.
too.
And then the movie The Matrix. I'm always like, you want to watch The Matrix again? He's like,
Yeah, just a reminder.
yeah, oh my God, there's like three of them. Like, I don't even know how many there are, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
know.
and he is. My husband's very concrete, and so it is very hard for him, and I'm like, oh, and and it's gonna be this, and he's like, talking about the budget. I'm like, it's coming. It's
Yeah.
on its
They told
way.
me.
It's already on its way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's already on its way. I feel it.
I
And he's like,
know.
oh, he's a very I'll believe it when I see it person, and I
Right.
am you got to see it or you got to believe it to see it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That's why you work so well together, right?
yeah, yeah. It's with we've always even before I went down the self-healing woo road, we've always been very much like we balance, we're the opposite
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
best ways and on the same page in the best ways. And but it can, the it can be hard when you first start to do the inner work and you grow your awareness and you start to understand like, oh, this isn't the way I'm feeling isn't really about them or this situation. This is something else,
Hmm.
rearing its ugly head. And, it can be hard. One of my clients currently, just recently lost her father and
Hmm.
her mom and dad weren't together, but her mom's, having her own hard time. Um, kind of angry and bitter and saying all this stuff and she's like it's the things she says and I'm like I know and she's like if she just realized that she's just so focused on lack and what she's missing. I'm like I love hearing you talk like that and I'm like but you can't make somebody like we can't we I and that's why I always tell her I said you be you show up in your light, you stay connected to yourself, you stay connected to what you know, and you speak authentically from a place of love. You
Yeah.
can't you can't tell her, you can't talk someone into change. You can't talk someone into seeing it and understanding it. They have to come to it in their own time. And I was like, and she's just not there yet.
It's not
But
there.
it can be challenging with relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be like fully transparency. I think I've talked about this before. Like my husband and I went through a really hard time. Like when my business like boom, because it boomed and it like I sold out programs, reached a high level of success. He was not happy. And I was like, whoa, what? Like, why are like this is exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what we wanted. This is the vision. The vision is done. It's in the 3D space. And it's like that wasn't about me, right? There were other issues like coming up, blah, 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 threatening, like all the old paradigms like crumbling, whatever. But when I worked through that, it was like, okay, what am I choosing? How am I being? What am I doing? And what I did was I chose a frequency of a loving and supportive partner. I'm attracting a frequency of a loving and supporting partner into my life. Do I want it to be him? Of course. I love him. He's my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's got a choice too. Like people in your life and relationships have a choice. I'm attracting that frequency. So naturally that frequency will find me. And he can
Yeah.
be that frequency. He can step into that frequency and he did, right? He did step into that
Yeah.
frequency and match me. But he had a choice, like of being, okay, well,
Yeah.
do you want to be with me or not? And
Like
and and this is
this
the
is what I
frequency.
yeah. This
Yeah,
is what I want for my life. This is where the space I'm moving from.
yeah.
Are we moving from there together or what's going on?
Yeah.
And
But it's
it
really like
can.
it's again, it's like not it's not your choice, right? Like it's just like it's my choice to hold the frequency and then also obviously set a boundary for what's allowable. And
Hmm.
I just like I have a happy, healthy, supportive partner. I have a happy, healthy, supportive partner that loves me and is there for me and is with me, that wants to see me
Yeah.
happy, thriving, successful, well fed, and rested, nourished. That's
Yeah.
that's who is in my life. That's
Soul
who I'm
nourished.
attracting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so he had a choice. And that's, I think that is like for anybody, it's like, well, I can't manifest a partner or I can't manifest a nice friend or like a community. I can't manifest like you can manifest anything you want.
Anything.
Yeah. It
Anything.
just may not be the face that you're
Right.
associating. You have to detach yourself from that physical presence, that physical space and only welcome the energetic frequency and the physical will drop in.
Yeah, it's so true. What the one of my clients that I've been working with, I said, been battling cancer. So we've been really focused on the manifestation of good health and healthy cells. And, one of the things I said to her was, your body is a universe unto itself. Our cells mirror stars and
Yeah.
our neural networks and stuff like, and you are the voice of the universe when you speak to your body. And so and it the changing the way we speak to match that energy, we don't realize, and this is why I made the joke about like me and technology are working on a relationship,
Yeah.
because if I constantly am saying, I suck at technology and it's such a pain in the ass to deal with and I'm always having issues. That's what I'm going to keep. That's the frequency I'm at. That's what I'm going to keep attracting,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so just working on changing our language and recognizing that our words have so much power, and the ones we use, what we choose, the way we choose to say things has power.
Amazing. Wow, we didn't even get into like the intuitive stuff. That sucks. But there was so much like action packed into this episode. Before we like head off here, tell people like where they can find you, tell people like your programs, what it looks like to work with
Yeah.
you. Like tell us all about like what you do, your vortex, and like who your ideal client is too.
So let's see. So intuitive healing, that comes along, it's something that actually going in, I didn't consider myself. I didn't call myself. It wasn't even on my radar to think or look at it that way. But after working with so many clients and being in our one-on-one spaces and things coming up, their trauma and their past stories, and being able to take them into meditations and visualizations where they're really kind of going back to those past moments and um saying the things that that version of them needed to hear, and
Yeah.
being that person that they needed in that moment, and taking people through off the cuff tapping sessions. um it just became very apparent that this was me flying by the seat of my pants of going, okay, this is where I'm being led. I'm being led to lead you into this, that shadow work. And so that's kind of where the intuitive healing came in. I'm on Instagram, Bonny.Furlong, and it's Bonny with a Y. No one spells it that way, but it's Bonny with a Y.
You do.
Bonny.Furlong. Yeah. I have a private Facebook group that I call the Be the Badass Facebook group. I'm getting ready to launch a kind of mini course called the Balanced Badass. And it's really it's obviously moms are kind of in the forefront of my mind. I do work with a lot of women who are moms, but many of my clients have not been. And it's really for that woman who feels like I don't have time for the inner work. I'll work on it later. I'll do it, when the kids are older, or I'll do it when my job's not so busy. And so the Balanced Badass is really it's bite-sized lessons with some of the most powerful tools that I have in my arsenal that I to this day use regularly.
Mhm.
And it really walks them through understanding why they are the way they are and what's happening
Yeah.
internally, and how to use those tools in simple, bite-sized, like in the middle of our busy, messy lives,
Yeah.
to be able to use those tools to help, in general, just feel better, have a more regulated nervous system, to feel calmer, to feel less scattered, to get rid of the overthinking and the anxious thinking. And so I'm really excited. The sales page is actually going live in the next few hours, maybe
Yay.
24 hours at most. So the sales page will be live for that very soon. And they can get more information on my Instagram. I'll have the sales
Beautiful.
page linked there. And it really, like I said, it's kind of what I wish that version of me who Googled how do I love myself,
Yeah.
that she had something that fits into a life that already feels like it's overflowing, and that they for the women who don't feel like they have time for that kind of thing,
Yeah.
the Balanced Badass is really there to break that myth. You do have time for nervous system regulation and
Yeah.
emotional processing, and you do have
It's
time.
actually the
You do have
only thing
time.
you have time for. Like that's the only thing
Yeah.
you need to have time for, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then I do work with clients one on one, typically in a 3 month container. But it's very kind of be where, like I said, it's very intuitive. So it's like, how can we fit this into your life? What can I do to make this accessible for you? So that we can, get you back where you're feeling like your badass self, where you're back in touch with your power, and feel like you can take on anything. I mean, really, there isn't anything life could throw at me now that I'm not like, I can handle it.
Yeah. I mean, you are
And I
so
want that
strong, and
for
like
all of them,
what a testament.
everyone.
Yeah, what a testament to that inner work, that strength, that love, that power, that boundary, that self-love, and like really listening to yourself. Like if anything, you're a testament that when you listen and you follow the breadcrumbs in front of you, like you cannot fail. You cannot go wrong. Nobody ever like loved themselves more. And we're like, well, I kind of wish I was still stuck in that hustle. Like without a doubt,
Yeah.
anyone who's done this work is so excited, happy, and overjoyed that they found the answer. So thank you for doing what you do. And
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah,
being
for
a
sure.
guest on the Vortex. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners?
It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, of course.
Um, I don't think so. Just you have the power and don't
Yeah.
ever forget it.
Be a badass.
Be a badass. You have the power.
All right. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
You too, Kathleen. Thank you.